you can see, we've got a number of speakers to get through, so I want to get it moving as soon as possible. I'd just like to, first of all, as everybody's packed here into the hall, we've got almost 300 people registered for the event, which is very good, and to thank the NEU union who've given us the facilities to actually get us all together and discuss what we're doing. In case people aren't aware of it, actually, there's 9 national trade unions have sponsored this event, so I think it's a serious event taking place and something we can hopefully take forward in our workplaces. Just to introduce myself, my name's Liz Wheatley and I'm the branch secretary of Camden Unison here in this local area. There's even members there giving a little whoop of excitement. And an official apparently, I'm not too sure about that, but we won't dwell on that. We've got a number of speakers in this session. So the first one I'm going to take, who's wildly scribbling his notes, I only told him a minute ago he was first, is Sam Gurney. He's the Regional Secretary, TUC Regional Secretary for London and the South East. Each speaker's going to speak for 6-7 minutes, and it being a plenary, we're not having discussion from the floor, so make the most of what you're going to get from people. I think they all work out.
Thank you, Chair. I took over in January from Megan Dobney, who some of you will hopefully know, who was Regional Secretary for the TUC in our region. And I'm very pleased to have been invited to come down and speak today and to recommit our region and the TUC to support for the mobilisation for the demo on March the 17th, which will build on last year, but I'm sure it will be huge. And I'm very much hoping my cold isn't going to affect this, but if it looks like I'm going to sneeze, front row duck, because it will be like, it's just that. The title of this session is very, very appropriate. To successfully combat racism, we need to, both in and outside of a workplace, we have to build trade union organisation. Addressing the fall in our membership and rebuilding collective bargaining coverage is essential to unions being able to play a leading role in anti-racist campaigning. Last year at TUC, we conducted some very extensive research onto what was happening in workplaces. We did an independent poll of 1,000 black workers, and we did an online survey to which over 5,000 people responded, which enabled people to say in their own words what they were experiencing in the workplace. The poll of working adults found that since the European referendum, 1 in 5 black people had witnessed or suffered racist assault. 2 in 5 had heard racist remarks or opinions, 2 in 5 had seen racist material online, and 1 in 4 had seen racist graffiti, posters or leaflets. And while I know we're all disgusted by those figures, no one in this room is going to be shocked by that, because we all know the scale of the problem that we're facing. The question for us is what we do about it. There are actions that we're calling on the government to take, and that is the role of the TUC unions and other organisations to lobby for changes. We need to bring about and have rules that will deal with third-party harassment, which protect workers who are public-facing, who deal, such as shop workers, street cleaners and bus drivers, who are particularly exposed to harassment. We'd like to see a full race equality strategy, including tough action to crack down on harassment and discrimination at work. We'd like to see the EHRC properly funded and taking legal cases again to make sure that our laws actually reflect the forms that contemporary racism takes. And we'd like to see private sector companies taking responsibility to promoting equal treatment in the same way that public sector organisations have a legal duty to do. But that's what we're demanding the government to do. Equally important, and important for us today, is what we can do ourselves. So we need to make sure that the workers who are in the front line facing this treatment are able to join unions, and that unions are seen to be taking a lead. That means us taking a leading role in anti-racism and anti-fascist campaigning in our communities, but it also means embedding this work in our negotiating and organising agendas in the workplace. It means ensuring our reps and officers are equipped to deal with these issues when they're raised with them. And that means taking up work on things like the ethnic pay gap which is still incredibly stark. When you look at the figures, again, the research we were doing last year at the TUC, you look at the figures for what black workers earn comparative to white counterparts of exactly the same level of qualifications, and the stark differences that are still there. But we need to be dealing with that as a collective bargaining issue. It means redoubling our work to support migrant workers, organising and unionising. And I know there was a session of that this morning. In our region, we've had a big project working with Portuguese and Polish trade union centres on organising workers from those countries who are in the east of England, and we want to expand that and make that across our entire region. And it means calling out the actions of business and employers when they fail to act to protect workers from racism, or, as in many cases, are acting in deliberately discriminatory ways. And that means all of our work on combating things like short hours and 0 hours contracts, because we know that they disproportionately affect black workers, and in particularly black women workers. If you look at the increase in agency work over the last 5 years, it's been an 80% increase in the number of black women who are on agency short-term or zero-term contracts, and that needs to be dealt with as an industrial issue. Chair, I know I should probably over my time now, but just very briefly, the TUC region that I'm privileged now to be the regional secretary of has got a long tradition of standing in the front line of campaigns against racism and fascism. In the 1970s, there was work against the NF. I'll admit I was too young to remember the battles of Lewisham and Wood Green, but I saw directly the role of unions in combating the BNP in Tower Hamlets, in Barking and Dagenham, down in South East London and across London. We helped to organise the Respect Festival, and our trades councils have played an important role in gathering information on activities of groups like the EDL and challenging them at a local level. But I said, we have so much more to do. I had my first regional council meeting as regional secretary last month, and when I looked out at the room, over 100 delegates, the representativity in that room, I'd be lying if I said that it was decent. It was pretty poor, in fact. So we have to also commit ourselves to developing our own reps and our leaders to make sure that our union structures fully reflect the workforce and the communities which we're serving. So apologies for going over time there, but I'll finish by repeating my words at the start. To successfully fight racism, we have to build our unions. We have to be seen, and to build our unions, we have to be seen to be in the front line of that fight against racism and fascism wherever it rears its head. So thank you very much. I look forward to working with you going forwards.
Thanks, Sam. And he actually was spot on time, so he set an excellent precedent. Just whilst our next speaker gets up to the podium, any of you who are particularly on point might have noticed that the makeup of the platform isn't absolutely identical to the listing in the programme. Although we had Sebastian, anti-racist trade unions from Germany, sitting waiting for us, the Skype link isn't working, so we're not going to get him, although we have got a couple of additional speakers instead. We've also had apologies from Lee Barron, who's the regional secretary of the TUC in the Midlands. As you can see, the banner's made its way down. Unfortunately, there's due to family illness, he's been unable to come, but he's somebody who's been very committed to the work of Stand Up to Racism in the West Midlands so far, and I know he's planning to be over some of the events they've got coming up in the near future as well. Our next speaker, though, is Rakia Ishmael. She's a Labour councillor in Islington, and she's a Unison trade union member.
Bismillah, I greet you in the name of Allah, and also Assalamu alaikum, and wish you blessings, and it basically means blessings to you all. Thank you for that lovely introduction. I am a Unison member. Why am I standing here? I sometimes ask myself the same question. Stand up to racism. Thank you to the trade unions for inviting me to this event. Stand Up to Racism is something I have recently joined in Islington, and we have achieved so much in such a short space of time, campaigning about Islamophobia, particularly the McDonald's hate crime, which really got me hot under the collar. But before that, my husband was also one of the victims in Finsbury Park Mosque. And that even is worse. But I have always stand up against any form of racism, and I would rather die standing up against any form of racism, whether Islamophobia, anti-Semitics, or any. I can't stand it. And as a mom of 4 children, why should we? many Muslim women like myself are suffering and cannot stand up for themselves. And I'm the type of, I look like anyway, or the stereotype that Theresa May and her government would label and say, oh, Muslim women are all oppressed because of the way we dressed. What they don't realize is they are oppressing me, taking off my hijab. That is what I think. And what is worse is they are oppressing our next generation of British Muslim young girls at primary school, taking off their hijab. I remember as a young girl wearing the same clothes or my mom's clothes, and same as children. The same with my daughters. The same with any of your children. Children have the first role models of their parents, and they are telling me that my daughters have and other daughters have to take the hijab. No way. I'm a Muslim woman wearing a hijab. It's a sign of modesty and tells my faith, my beautiful Islamic history. Still a British Muslim, and still a British Muslim woman, a mom of 3 young hijab women, and proud to be first Somali Muslim councillor and a fighter of any injustice of all. By all means necessary. That's why I'm part of Islington Stand Up to Racism. We have campaigned about the hijab refusing to serve a hijabi woman. Why? Why does Islam have given a bad name by the Tory government oppressing us all? Me as British, and many British Muslim women. It's basically bullying us to look like everyone. It's beautiful to be different. But it's just a hatred of Islamic ideology. They have Islamic ideology hatred, including the media. But what's worse is we have a Tory failing government that is getting advice from Sarah Khan and Amina alone. And that's more dividing the Muslim community than uniting the British Muslim the British community. And that is really a territory that is doomsday if we do not stand up for what this government and to get rid of them once and for all. In Islington, we have campaigned offset hijab mandate Spielberg. It's oppressive. Is oppressive leadership message, which is based on extreme view and hatred ideology of Islam. Whereas she has appointed Sarah Khan to lead commission for counter-extremists, which herself is an extremist. We Muslim community are heading for doomsday, and can someone help us to get rid of this government for once and for all? What's wrong with looking like your mom, dad, or sisters? I just would like to also comment, when I used to work in schools, I used to face a lot of criticism, and parents used to face a lot of criticism. And I'm not saying everyone is, all you lovely teachers who are here are racism, but what I'm saying, there is a racism among us in our schools, in universities, in hospitals. Muslim women are working 5 o'clock in the morning, they are cleaners, they are carers, and they still face racism. That's what we need to fight against. 18. Next Sunday, 18, is an Open Muslim. It's Open Mosque, my mosque day, and it's everywhere. I hope you all attend your local mosque and see how welcome the Muslim community is. No doubt you are aware, but maybe we should tell others who are not aware. 5th of March, Islington Stand Up to Racism has a new dawn day by having the first ever Muslim conference led by Stand Up to Racism and the trade unions. I'd just like to say a few things about, attacks of Finsbury Park Mosque, Muslim community. As a Muslim hijabi at work or not, visual blackface, everyday racism. Why? I look the way I talk and eat. Why do I have racism? Islamophobia represents racism, discrimination, unwelcoming negative, harassment, hostility, color of my skin and faith. No way I can take racism. I'm just going to skip. racism at school, at university, and let's just think about back in the day, during the colony, it's about controlling. It's about controlling. It's the land, it's the power, it's money. We need to stand up against racism of all forms, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Rakia. Our next speaker is Alex Ajifo. He's a member of the RMT, I think he's the Virgin East Coast Line, and he's fighting victimisation, so he's going to talk about that.
Good afternoon, conference. My name is Alex Ajifo. I am not an eloquent speaker, but I only want to share my experience with you people. Maybe it could be of any help where you work. I work for ISIS on the Virgin East Coast in London, King's Cross, and I've been working with them for about 7 years. But what I discover working for this company is there's so much racism, harassment, and victimization of the staff. And when I joined them, I'm going to share a personal story. Maybe it could be of any help to anyone. When I joined them, we had only 8 people in the RMT, the union, and we have about 300 staff. One of the criteria of the management that you must not be in the union. They would tell, my interview, they asked me, are you in the union? So if you say yes, you're not getting the job. So they ask you, are you in the union? You have to pretend as if you don't understand what they're talking about. So when I joined them, they asked me, am I in the union? I said, hang on a minute, I don't understand what you're talking about. So the man said, okay, you'll be fine. And they promised me so much, but when I got into the company, I found out it was all lie. They have divided the workforce by paying you £10, paying you £2, £8. It depends on how you look or who you know. So the pay rate, there's so much discriminatory. There was so much when it comes to your pay rate. So what we try to do, and when I got there, we have Bulgaria sitting on one side, like the Romania on one side, the African on one side, the British on one side. But personally, I love people, wherever you come from, it's not my problem. So we try to organize everybody. We try to tell them, look, it might be your turn tomorrow. You're getting £10 today, you are happy. But when they remove the manager, you're going to be on £6. So you'll be sad. So we brought everybody together. We campaigned all the way from Edinburgh, speaking to everybody from one station to the other and telling them about their rights. And fortunately enough, we were sent on a course from RMT. So we came back from that course. We were able to create an awareness and to get people informed about what is going on in the workplace and about their rights, their do's and don'ts. And we started from there, and we were able to recruit about 98% of the workforce. And today, I'm standing before you people conference. I was dismissed from the company only because the management thought I was too powerful for them. He said, when I say something to the staff, they don't listen, but when you talk to them, they listen to you. I said, because I see no difference in any man. All men are equal. You treat them because they are cleaner, you treat them as rubbish, but I treat them as one of my family. So when I speak to them, they believe I will tell them the truth. And I've always helped them to in my own capability, my own strength. So we have been able to win the people from that contract. 98% of them are members of the RMT, and we keep on fighting. We are able to fight for pay rise from £6. It's £9.75. Some of us are above £10. We gave us a roadmap. We have been on strike 14 times before we are able to achieve this. So, and I believe if we organize ourselves, we can take the capitalists, we can defeat the management, and we can rule the world again. Thank you very much, conference.
Thanks, Alex. Our next speaker is somebody who I think a number of you may well have met as they've done collections and taken donations over to Calais. This is Claire Mosley from the Care for Calais organisation.
Hi, thank you. And for anybody who doesn't know, I run Care for Calais, which is a direct aid charity providing food and clothing mostly to refugees based in Calais. And we do a lot of work with the trade unions who have been fantastic to us because a refugee charity is slightly unusual because we are controversial. It's not as simple as giving to, a cat's home because we don't get any government funding, we don't have any big corporate sponsors, we can't really apply to any of the big funding bodies. So all of our money comes from individuals, from what they call the grassroots movement. And the trade unions have been amazing in supporting us. I'm very proud of the fact that all of our funding comes from normal, ordinary, everyday people, from schools, universities, church groups, social groups. It's amazing. It feels like we are working on behalf of the people. But it's also extremely hard, so I'm very grateful for your support, and we do very much need it. But as well as the funding, there's something else that we really need to do. That's the thing I wanted to mention to you today, which is campaigning on behalf of the refugees. Because I know how many people there are who have the will to do something to help. But the people who speak against us have very loud voices. So we need to make sure that our voice is allowed too. And people ask me, what can they do? Well, there's something right now that we can do that's very important. So I really wanted to bring it to your attention today and make sure that everybody knows about it. There is a bill going through Parliament on the 16th of March, and this is about family reunification. Because one of the biggest tragedies of any conflict is that families get torn apart, families get split up, and they can't always get back together again. And in particular, the UK, unfortunately, has some of the most restrictive legislation in Europe. There's only ourselves and Denmark that have such restrictive legislation on family reunification, typically. So there are a group of people who are trying to do something about this. And there's a coalition been formed between the Red Cross, Oxfam, the Refugee Council and UNHCR. And I'm really proud that Care for Calais are now joining this coalition, and they are all supporting this bill. But we need as many people as possible to show the government that we want to support this bill and we want it to go through. So it's asking for various things to basically expand our UK domestic legislation to bring it in line with some of the other countries in Europe and to give us more potential to reunite families that have been split up by conflict and need to be reunited. What the Refugee Council have done is they've given us a really easy way to show our support for this bill. So there's a form that you can fill in. It takes 2 minutes. All you need to do is put in your postcode, find your address and add your name and send it. And it tells your MP that this is something that you want to happen. So this is something that we really need to get as much support as we can for as quickly as possible. There's a link to it on the homepage of our website. So hopefully it's really easy to find. That's careforcalais.org. So if I could ask everybody not just to sign this, but to share it with anyone you can, with your schools, colleges, workplaces, trade unions, churches, swimming club, anything that you can think of, please, please, please share this link. We need people to do it. It takes 2 minutes, but this is a really big thing that we can do to help refugees in the UK. So it's on, like I say, the homepage of our website, careforcalais.org. It's on our Facebook page, it's on the Refugee Council's homepage, but we just need as many people as we can to just take a couple of minutes, sign it, share it and get it out. I would be so grateful, and this is something that we really can do that will make a difference. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker, though, is writing his speech by the looks of it on his phone. It's Ian Lawrence, and he's the General Secretary of NAPO.
Chair, brothers and sisters, I wasn't writing it so much as taking something out so to save me repeating it. Look, what a fantastic opportunity, and thanks for the invitation. We face struggle, no question. You've heard the speakers here today. And it's interesting, I'm only one of, I think, very few General Secretaries of visible mixed heritage to have emerged through the movement in recent years. That's not about me, but it does suggest that there's still a long way to go. And when I face still archaic internal Buggins-Turn electoral processes in the TUC, that means anybody trying to get on the General Council, irrespective of race, colour or creed, is only there on the basis of the old dead person's shoes syndrome. We do have some difficulties. Look, I'm sorry I can't be with you all of today. I've had to rearrange the timing of some family events, one of which includes taking 3 of my 8 grandchildren to an event known as Dinosaurs in the Wild. And before you ask me, no, it is not a secret meeting of Britain First or EDL. It is, in fact, an experience technologically enhanced that is supposed to show us how dinosaurs became extinct, and I'm excited by it. Unfortunately, we know, don't we, that dinosaurs are not totally extinct, as we see throughout the world and in our own society here. They still exist, rearing their ugly heads as part of their quest to foster fear and division and hatred in our communities. And that's why we are here, to fight back against that. And that's why I'm proud to play even a small part in events like today, where we seek comfort and strength from one another in our own quest to deliver a truly pluralistic society, and a decent one at that, where trade unionists and community and charity leaders can join together with our common message, as said by many of the speakers here today, I know, that we will have no truck with inequality, sexism, racism, religious intolerance and homophobia. And we'll send that strong message from today. Well, sadly, comrades, our struggle has no end date in sight, does it? No benchmarks or performance targets, and we will be able to simply turn to one another and say, job well done. The late, great Tony Benn often said that nothing's achieved without struggle, and how true that still is. In modern-day post-Brexit referendum Britain, we see a rise in hate crime and everyday bigotry that probably surpasses that encountered by my late father when he came to these shores from Mumbai back in 1949 to escape the trauma of partition that he witnessed as a young police officer, standing there powerless while mass carnage took place in front of his eyes, something that stained him indelibly over the years and which he spoke little of. So that's another example why trade unions must speak out against racism, but not only that, organise ourselves and our respective memberships to encourage and improve representation among traditionally underrepresented groups. In my own union, NAPO, we have a proud record of diversity. We have reserved seats for black NEC members. We created a black members network, all good things, positive, but despite this, we've yet to see a real increase in the number of BME representatives coming through the local ranks to challenge for national leadership positions. We still have much to do, and I suspect you do as well. So I expect all of us are here saying, well, what more can we do? I wish I had all the answers. I don't. But for me, it's about building confidence in activism. So my 3-point plan would firstly see the TUC take a leading position, actively promoting trade unionism within underrepresented minority groups, or we have a highly visible public campaign. They might simply say, your views are just as important as the next person you work with. Build confidence. Secondly, unions should review the levels of representation they have afforded to black members in cases involving alleged racism at the workplace, even if that means sample surveys and checks and balances to ensure that no disparity exists in service delivery, because that's a creeping issue in many trade unions where people don't feel they're being listened to. And thirdly, a plea for all of us here to take the message of collectivism out into our increasingly diverse communities as often as you can. Forge links with schools, colleges and academia. If you're not one, consider becoming a school governor, for example, and demonstrate a visible commitment to those in your communities that you have something to say and have a message. Get yourselves involved in anti-racist initiatives in schools, because history shows, doesn't it, that our children aren't born racists, they're inculcated into it. And that's an important part of their development, and we have a responsibility to play our part. So I'll leave here confident, Chair, that today's event is another powerful step forward in what is that perennial struggle. Thank you for your time and commitment to the cause. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks, Ian. Our next speaker is Salima Khatoon, and she's an anti-academy campaigner from Newham.
Hi. So I'm one of the members of Avenue Parents Group in Newham. We, along with our teachers, who we wouldn't have been able to achieve so much without, they've been amazing. We've got, I think, about 78 or 79 members who are with us, and we stand with them when they strike every other week, because at the moment I think we've gone through three sets of strikes over the last 4 months. So I guess a bit about our campaign. So in Newham, we're fighting for justice, justice for ourselves and on behalf of our children's education. We feel that it's been compromised and will continue to deteriorate. We're questioning the reliability and transparency of the governing board, who have made a major decision to convert without adequately consulting parents or the local community. They did a shoddy consultation, which I think is common across the country, that people are doing these consultations and not actually listen to the feedback that they're getting. Newham itself is a diverse borough. We've got a high migrant community, lots of transient people coming in and out of the borough, and I think that we feel is being taken advantage of, that people aren't really able to speak for themselves or voice their concerns. And I guess when we formed, we realised all the issues that some parents are facing because they can't voice their opinions, because they don't feel they can sort of advocate for themselves and their children. Academisation, obviously, as you all know, is a national issue, and I think we really need to get behind it and stop what's going on across the country, because if we don't, we lose our voice as a community, as parents. I think about what happened recently at St Stephen's with the whole hijab issue, and the only reason really that we were able to reverse that ban is because we had the community, local politicians, MPs, people getting involved and opposing it. Unfortunately, when we become an academy, we don't have that voice. It doesn't matter how many petitions you do, how many councillors, politicians you get involved, how hard or loud you scream. It will happen because that's what they want. So really, I guess, just get behind the anti-academisation movement and be heard. I guess that's what I've got to say. I'm trying to raise money as well, guys, so please do speak to me. We're filing a legal case against the school. We've approached Bindmans, who think that we have a strong case, and we're trying to pursue it and actually make a mark and say that we're not going to stand for this. We will argue. So do come and chat to me. Thank you.
Thanks, Salima. Our next speaker is somebody who's spoken at a number of stand-up to racism events before, and we're very pleased to have him back. It's Ian Hodson, who's the president, I was going to say General Secretary, but president of the Bakers Union.
Come on, sisters, brothers. Bring you fraternal greetings from the Bakers Food and Allied Workers Union. I might be a little bit quieter today. I've got a bit of a cold. I've got no sympathy off anybody on social media. They all started sending me photos of man-up pills and stuff. So I'm going to try and get some sympathy out of you. But listen, the system's designed, isn't it? The system's designed to create racism. The system's designed to cause division. Whether it's gender, the joint enterprise, which is a system that imprisons working class kids and treats those kids that throws away a key for life, not because they've committed a crime, simply because they've got an association and come from a council estate. We have to smash the system, because that's how we stop racism in this country. That's how we ensure that people are treated fairly and equally. And we've got to say to those people that are arguing, the trade union movement too, that's arguing for the freedom of movement across Europe, no, the freedom of movement globally is a human right. We have the right to live wherever we want, wherever we feel. To improve the lives of ourselves and our families, we have the right to live there. Why is it? If you're a billionaire, you can move over here, you can buy up a council estate and turn it into an investment property, but you come from France or Poland or Romania, and you can't find a home to live in? Why is that? Why is that okay? It's not acceptable, and that's the system that's wrong. And you know, what makes this happen in our society today is because the politicians and the media, they tell us lies. They bring in policies that enable zero-hour contracts. They bring in policies that say that low pay is okay. And that's the reason why people are able to divide us, because that's how the right thrive. They thrive because people are in hardship and they say, they're responsible for your hardship. Well, you know what? No disabled person's ever been responsible for taking somebody's job away. No refugee has ever taken anybody's house away. No migrant worker introduced a zero-hour contract. They were politicians and corporations. And those are the people that we should despise. Those are the people that we need to deal with. And that's why when we recognise, when we stand together, impossible is nothing. We stand together. Look what we achieved. Look at our National Health Service. We built that. Look at the council houses that we built after the Second World War. We did that because when we stand together, we are unstoppable. Solidarity.
Our last speaker for the session, Roger has spoken the last couple of years at Unison Conference, actually. Our branch has been amongst many hosting and sponsoring a Stand Up to Racism event, and Roger has always turned up to speak there for us. So very glad to see him speak here as well as helping us try and move Stand Up to Racism initiatives forward inside Unison. So, Roger.
All right, so I've got a bit of a cold as well, so I expect the same sort of sympathy that Ian got. Thank you. Right, I'm not impressed. Right. I mean, this is a fantastic turnout today. So it's like standing room only. It's just like a regular Unison branch meeting. I mean, it's just like I feel really at home. Look, let me get to the point because I haven't got very long to speak. Some bloody idiot somewhere in Wolverhampton has decided that they are putting forward a proposal that there should be a plaque to Enoch Powell.
No way.
There's a number of things that spring to mind out of this. Firstly, how do you get onto this Wolverhampton Civic Trust? Because that apparently is the body that has come up with this brilliant idea that they're going to commemorate a racist. How do you get to these people to have a conversation with them about just how stupid an idea this really is? And do they really think that any plaque that went up to this person would last longer than 30 seconds? At a time when public funds are in jeopardy, at a time when public funds are really scarce, some bloody idiot thinks that this is a good use of funds. Well, let me tell you this. I want to be really clear. I have nothing at all against blue plaques. Nothing. I think we should have blue plaques in Wolverhampton. I think we should have blue plaques all over the place. But there should be blue plaques that commemorate the people who've been on the receiving end of racism around this country. Because let me tell you about the impact of what that man did in Wolverhampton. I was 5 years old when he gave that speech, right? I know you're thinking, you can't possibly be that old, Roger. But yes, I am, right? 5 years old, and let me tell you, the names that we got called, right? It's embedded into me. The names that we got called, but also the attacks that took place against our communities as a direct result of what he said. I don't know how many times I heard people say Enoch was right. I don't know how many times people attacked us in the street. So yes, let's have a blue plaque for the as yet unnamed black woman who, standing on a corner, was attacked as a direct result of what that man said in Birmingham that day. Let's have a blue plaque for the railway worker who went to work the very next day in Wolverhampton and had to put up with being spat at in their place of work. And I have to say, having no support from their trade union at the time. Because let's be really, really clear about this, right? What we see up and down this country right now it's not all people who are not part of the trade union movement who are saying these things and feel as though they've got permission for their racism right now because of politicians who run around and think that it's okay to spout some of the rubbish that they do. It's our members as well. And we have to stand up to our members as well. We have to stand up and be really clear about how we stand against racism. This just isn't some little slogan that we're here to celebrate today. Stand up to racism. It's not just a slogan. This has to be a way of life for all of us. And I'm an organiser. And I know this as an organiser, that it's dead easy to carry on talking to people who agree with you. It's really easy to organise people who already are on your side. I'll tell you what is really tough. And the mark of an organiser, if we can all go out together and reach into those communities where people don't agree with us, go into those workplaces where they don't agree with us and change their minds, bring them into our movement, because I am really, really clear about what is required right now. We will get nowhere unless we build the movement that's going to make a difference, a fundamental shift in favour of working class people in this country. That's what's required. We will not just do it by talking to each other alone. We need to grow strength from each other, for sure. But we have to go out and build that movement that's going to make the change to stop the sort of racism that our people are experiencing in workplaces and communities and on the streets up and down the country. I don't think it's acceptable that in this day and age, I can walk down the street where I live in Oxford and people can wind down the window of their car, throw an egg at me at the car and call me the N-word in this day and age. And if they can do to me, somebody who walks confidently, somebody who behaves confidently, let's look at what they're doing to people up and down this country. The time is now. This is where we have to stand up together. No more excuses. No more excuses will be tolerated from people who make excuses about why it's too tough to tackle racism now. We've heard all that stuff before. We've been there. We've got the T-shirt. This is where we have to stand together. Time is now. Thank you very much for listening.